Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Del. If you're new to this channel, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. But today I'm going to be breaking down the infrastructure of the Boule Society and how it correlates to Black fraternities and sororities, and how those organizations are cultural incubators that emulate the European power structure that's based on preoccupation, prejudice, and gatekeeping, and how those ideologies is acclimated to the movie industry, the music industry, professional sports, religion, and the socio-political aspect of civics when you're talking about Black politicians who give you the illusion of progressiveness, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're finna get straight to it. It's so much information, man. I don't even know where to start. Get your notes out for this one, because this one's going to show you the dichotomy between who's who and what's what, because the veil is lifted. So since the veil is lifted, you know, this new energy on the planet is going to show you who's giving you the intrinsic information to where you're able to be in a state of evolution, and who is basically here to stagnate you by way of gatekeeping. So the Black Boule, the secret gatekeepers of Black America. So it's comprised of many different politicians, people in the music industry, people in the movie industry, and all throughout every industry, there is a gatekeeping aspect that basically keeps you in a state of subjugation to where you're not able to evolve with your career if you're in that industry, right? So the Boule, the gatekeepers. So you got people like Oprah Winfrey, you got Will Smith, you got Martin Luther King. Like I said, it all ties into every industry on the planet, right? And we finna break it down. We finna make it all make sense today. So for those who don't understand the whole infrastructure of the Boule Society, the Boule Society is an African-American fraternal order originated in ancient Greece as a subservient class of the Grecian rulers, reinstitutionalized in 1904 in the United States of America, meaning Council of Chiefs or advisor to kings. The Boule Society is the elite servant class to the Freemasons, right? Now, when you look at the sigil system, you can see that it's basically a griffin. So it's not a coincidence that they meet up at Griffin Park, and we're going to get into that as I'm going to be showing you a presentation that's acclimated to my presentation by Stephen Coakley, right, who was killed for putting out this information. Now, the Boule Society is comprised of the people who are being facilitated and controlled by the Jesuits, who control the NAACP. So when you're looking at this picture right here with Martin Luther King, you see the rabbi of Abraham Haskell, and he's basically holding, they're basically holding a Talmud, basically. So that's why it's not a coincidence that when Martin Luther King said that I had a dream not so long ago, in so many ways have turned into a nightmare. I have dated my people into a burning house, right? Because he knew that integration in itself would basically reverse the polarity of you not having your own self-preservation to where you're going to depend upon a certain demographic for resources, right? So now you don't have no self-preservation because of integration, right? And the Jesuits are the one who basically put him up to that, because one thing you got to understand is that their system does not survive unless they use one of us to pull one of us into their system, right? Now, I'm going to show you this little passage, this video by Stephen Coakley, right? Because he is the one who basically opened the floodgates about the ideologies and the whole infrastructure of the Boule Society, because a lot of people in the dark was basically in the dark with this information. And a lot of people were killed for putting out this information, right? But, you know, we living in a time period in modern day, you know, in 2024, the great majority of people in my generation don't know anything about the Boule Society, right? They cannot decipher who's who and what's what. They think that every black politician, they think that every black actor, they think that every black entertainment person or anybody who has some type of social or economic wealth, they think they're for us when they really not. And that's what basically the basis of this video is going to break down. It's going to break it down intrinsically to where you're able to galvanize the information. So I'm gonna play the video.
I mentioned tapes. You might want to slide to the table and try to grab them, because they ain't gonna be there, especially after I finger the tape. In the black and Jewish relations, remember we talked about how when the Jewish-Black alliance developed, that it was wealthy Jewish people and college-educated blacks.
Now, I'm gonna pause that for a second. We're gonna get right back to the video because there's a book that you gotta read to understand what's going on, right? And I'm finna put it up here in a second. You gotta read this book right here. It's called The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volume 1, right? And it's showing you the table of contents. It's going to be showing you how the Jesuit order works in tandem with the Boule Society. So you got the black laws, the blue laws, which works in conjunction with the 1724 Black Christian codes. It all, you know, it basically breaks down the whole infrastructure of how they created this dynamic of, you know, wealth and things of that nature. But I'm gonna get back to the video. So that's why you got to read that book. Uh-oh. I think I accidentally exited out. For a second, I'm about to pull it right back up here in a second. Just bear with me here. Because this video, you know what I'm saying, is very important so you can see the delineation between the real people who are basically for the so-called black people who are really fighting for us, and for those who are basically trying to connect us to the system so we can basically be financially and spiritually exploited by these individuals who control the Boule Society, who is your deep state shadow government. So this video is getting... All right, sorry. I already had it up. I just couldn't see it. But we're going to get right back to this video.
I mentioned tapes. You might want to slide to the table and try to grab them, because they ain't going to be there, especially after I finger the tape. In the black and Jewish relations, remember we talked about how when the Jewish-Black alliance developed, that it was wealthy Jewish people and college-educated blacks. There were no wealthy blacks. The first black millionaire was from Memphis, Tennessee, and he got it in 1900, Robert Church. That was the first black millionaire. And you can see down, here's Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14th chapter. LA is the 14th chapter. What do you call that in Greek? What do you call this? What? They get smarter. So that's what the LA chapter was. And as you can see, Some of the later chapters coming in, Albany, Georgia, Tyler, Texas. Now they start getting into even the smaller towns. Northern Illinois, Columbus, Georgia, San Jose, California. Let's see, let's look at some other California chapters. So you know people in those cities. There's Pasadena, Sacramento. Let's see here, San Francisco. Anymore? And there's Monrovia, Liberia. Because that's where they went to stop Marcus Garvey. You had to have Boule in Monrovia. You're going to stop Marcus Garvey over there. San Diego. Seattle nearby.
Now, one thing you got to understand is about the Boule Society, the inception of it, it was created to basically put a stoppage on the rise of Marcus Garvey and his movement. That was the inception point of why the Boule Society was created, to where they're basically being controlled by the shadow government.
Oakland, Berkeley, in Los Angeles. So you can get an idea of what they have. They're now, I think at this time there were about 90 chapters. They're now into the 100th chapter. Their rostrum, we have the list of all of their names. This is what their rostrum says on the inside. This directory has been prepared to serve as an important and useful source of information and data for subordinate boules and for individual archons, and to facilitate the communication processes within the fraternity. It is for the exclusive use of the members of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, and it is not for public scrutiny. It is not to be duplicated whole or in part for distribution outside the fraternity. Sigma Pi Phi ended 1990 with a total of 3,245 members and 94 subordinate boules. And it talks about recent chapters bringing in. So remember, you're hearing not because they wanted to. Somebody says, well, how could they be so bad? They've never been secret. When you can look at their list of names, they tell you. They give every member a list of names. And they tell that member, you better not tell nobody. And this is their directory. This is the names of every Boule member in the country. And if you look at the list, you need to see how thorough this is. This is why they're scared. Every Boule list has their home address on it. Boule member. That was for the king. We can knock on their door and visit them personally. We get a better call. Keep rolling. 3116 Fessenden Street, Northwest. Washington, D.C. This is the Washington, D.C. list. There's C. Payne Lucas. He's at an Africa. He was one of them shaft in that. He was at the Shaft in Africa meeting. The Black Summit, which was financed by the Ford Foundation, which we proved helped kill Malcolm X.
Pay attention to what he just said at the end. He's naming off Boule members that killed off our leaders. Now pay attention to what he said at the end.
This is the Washington, D.C. list. There's C. Payne Lucas. He's at an Africa. He was one of them shaft in that. He was at the Shaft in Africa meeting. The Black Summit, which was financed by the Ford Foundation, which we proved helped kill Malcolm X.
Right. He said the Ford Foundation, which proved helped kill Malcolm X, right? So now, that is basically in alignment to what I'm getting ready to show you, right? Because Malcolm X knew about the Boule Society. Malcolm X was aware of the secret society that was controlling the civil rights movement for money. So with that being said, that was one of the main reasons why he was basically picked off, right? So it's not a coincidence when you see, people within the so-called conscious and the spiritual community, they are connected to many different Freemasonic ritualistic type of groups, right? Meaning that they have to abide by a certain energy and frequency to where they're able to be controlled under a form of monotheism, right? And we're going to get into that because I'm going to be showing you the hierarchical spiritual connections of how, we ended up in a state of, monotheistic religions and belief systems that's based on Babylonian principles, right? I'm going to show you the hierarchical chart when it comes to that. So it's not a coincidence that he was killed. So Steve Coakley, the guy that was speaking, he was killed for basically exposing the Boule Society. Malcolm X knew about the Boule Society and he was killed off because the Boule Society is a fraternal order that works in tandem with Freemasonry, because the inception of all fraternal orders starts with the Freemasonic order, right? So it's not a coincidence that these Freemasonic orders and these alphabetical groups control, all these black so-called leaders like Jesse Jackson and, Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama, Barack Obama. And then, you got all these things like Angela Davis that was part of the Black Panthers, and you got Black Lives Matter. All this stuff is basically being facilitated by the Jesuits at the top who control the Boule Society, which is why you see George Soros at the top, right? So that's why Rod Hayes said they look like us, but they not us, right? They not us whatsoever. So this is all connected to the truth about the Divine Nine, the college doorway to witchcraft and the mystery religions. So like I said, this is, a lot of people who are connected to, that went to historical black colleges, and people who became Kappas, Alphas, Sigmas, Betas, and AKAs and Deltas. A lot of these people don't understand the information intuitively. They just wanted to be a part of something. But like I said, that doesn't negate the fact that they will be utilized later by way of their confirmation by conforming to the system when they was back in college. Because a lot of these times, a lot of people who have a high social status, a high political status, a lot of them come from the Divine Nine of these fraternal orders and these sororities, right? And they end up being a part of the Grand Boule, which is why you see Kamala Harris. She's an AKA, right? But like I said, they give you the illusion that, we're in a state of progressiveness, because like I said, the progressiveness in itself is only being facilitated by those who are connected to the fraternal orders, right? So it shows you Kamala Harris, the women of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporation have always been by what has been under the burden. Society says we cannot be through our sisterhood. We know there is no barrier we cannot break. It was an honor to join my Soros at the 70th Boule, right? So she's telling you right there in real time that she's a part of the Boule Society, which is not a coincidence, right? So that's, like I said, everybody, as far as the socio-political aspect of civics, people are part of, the whole infrastructure of city council. Look up the background of these people, right? It's imperative that you look up the background of these people, because what's going to happen is when the planet is going to be shut down due to another lockdown, because a new form of pestilence is going to be on the planet any day now, these are the ones that's going to tell you to get the draconian juice. These are the ones that's going to tell you to conform to the system. These are the ones that's going to make you vote. These are the ones that's going to tell you about to get reparations instead of fighting for the land, right? So that's how you know who's who and what's what. You got people who propagating the system, and then you got the ones who are really fighting for the people. Those are the ones that are basically fighting for the land, right? Because we know the inception of our true history. These people go along to get along, right? Because they were basically socially and psychologically indoctrinated by way of the historical black colleges that was being facilitated and orchestrated by the Rothschilds. They are the ones who control historical black colleges, right? Now, when you look at this right here, it says, we are the king that black secret society serve. We control everything, including your pastors, right? That's why it's imperative to get our religion. So you got people like T.D. Jakes, who was the power bottom, going to these P. Diddy parties, right? You see him with P. Diddy, rubbing shoulders. Because if you really, was a hardcore Christian, you will basically detach yourself from the ideologies of the entertainment industry, because you know what comes with it. Because everything that's acclimated to the entertainment industry is all Babylonian worship, right? Because we know the demographic of people who control all those industries, right? So now, that's why it's imperative to understand that the great majority of these pastors, they get a 501c3 skull and bones contract, right? Which is a contract with the dark priesthood of the Vatican Church. So it's not a coincidence that when you see nonprofit organizations like a so-called black person getting a nonprofit organization. They getting NAACP awards. They getting, all this funding from the government. They took a 501c3. So they're basically a part of the fraternal order of the Skull and Bone Society, right? And we're going to be bringing up this fraternal order that started out of Yale as we get through the presentation. So every industry is a part of this, right? You got basketball players, you got the so-called LeBron James, who was also a gatekeeper. And in my opinion, I think he's also esoterically responsible for the death of Kobe by way of the numerical components of gematria. Because when you understand gematria, it lines up with LeBron James sacrificing Kobe Bryant, because Kobe Bryant, he was suing a certain industry, right? And he was basically going against the grain. So this is why you have gatekeepers who pretend to be your friend, and they're going to sacrifice you to the system if you get way too high, if you're basically going to destabilize the whole infrastructure that controls them. So that's why you see LeBron James with the Boule tattoo on his chest, right? This is all connected to Freemasonry. Not a coincidence, right? Because he has to show his veneration and credence to the system in order for him to reap the benefits of the wealth. So this is why, they're going to, everything is premeditated all throughout these industries. This is why they shave points. Just like Michael Jordan, when he was shaving points and he didn't follow suit, and they ended up killing his dad, right? Just like with Magic Johnson, when he didn't follow suit, they made him discard himself from the NBA and said that he now has AIDS, right? So everything is actually premeditated. If you don't go along with the system, they gonna basically subjugate you through a humiliation process, right? So every basketball player is a part of this. So you got Shaquille O'Neal with the Freemasonic garments on, right? With the apron. All this stuff. You got Jay-Z. We're going to get it to him later. You got Kevin Hart, who's a gatekeeper of the comedy industry, right? Which is why, you had Cat Williams. He was spilling a lot of beans about everything. This is why, a lot of people don't respect within, people like Dave Chappelle, people like Cat Williams. They don't respect people like him, because these are the people who basically sold out in order to facilitate a certain status within the industry. You got Barack Obama. You already know about him. He the one who signed the NDAA bill. And then you got Kamala Harris. And then you got this bozo, Diddy, the diddler, right? And like I said, that's why it's imperative to understand that, as I was telling you before, they're going to use these people to basically propagate voting. Because when you vote, that acclimates you to fraud, because when you participate in fraud, you can't claim injury to the system, right? Because now you're stuck under the 14th Amendment to where you're not able to get restitution, because now you're basically fighting for reparations and things of that nature. So everything a part of the political industry, the movie industry, is all based on a form of technology, right? Because they are being controlled by the deep state, right? So when you understand the whole infrastructure of the deep state, this is how they facilitate their social power and their social economic wealth. They have underground tunnels, and the underground tunnels is being used for trafficking purposes, right? Because in order to have this status, in order to have this money, to get that bag, in order to have these riches, you have to sacrifice something, right? And we're going to get into that when it comes to the rituals. But I don't want to get too far into the presentation, because I know it's connected to a lot of videos that I'm going to be showing you. So we're going to go back to Steve Coakley.
Check. Okay, you straight. Thank you, sister. And so, this is the first of the Greek thing. This is the granddaddy of the Greek thing. Here it is that we see that they placed how much on the organizational plan. Reliance was placed on Greek history. So when you confront them, they're going to swear it ain't a Greek thing. And you're going to tell them, say, well, I seen your thing, and I know your thing is Greek from the jump. And no subordinate Boule can ever deviate from the structure and the guidelines laid down by people in the organization higher than them. Never does a private disrupt the sergeant, who does not fuck with the lieutenant, who does not contradict the general, who does not talk back to the major, and the general you are, don't talk against the president. So when you're in a hierarchy, you are controlled from the top down. The bottom could be honest people, but they must.
Like I said, the bottom can be honest people. Like you got people who are part of the Divine Nine, a part of these fraternal orders, these sororities or whatever. They may not know what's going on, but they got to follow a certain hierarchy because the people are part of those fraternal orders, the people are part of those sororities. They got to follow the chain of command by following the Boule members. And the Boule members are being controlled by the deep state. The deep state are being controlled by the archonic forces who control the simulation, right? We're going to get into that later.
So when you're in a hierarchy, you are controlled from the top down. The bottom could be honest people, but they must do what the top tell them. That's the deal. So if you're in the army, you know it's someone over you. Even if you colon pound. Hold it. Holding my colon pound.
So now that's connected to this video. Like I said, a lot of people, they may not understand, you know, that they're part of these fraternal orders and things of that nature, but they're being controlled by the Boule. Like I said, you got genuine people who are trying to understand the truth. You know, a lot of you who watch my channel are probably a part of, you know, fraternities and sororities because you wanted to be a part of something when you was in college. That doesn't mean that you're basically a Illuminati member. You were just joining something, you know, you were just trying to get a genuine connection and be a part of something. Like, I understand that. But that doesn't negate the fact that as you climb up into the ranks of your the working force and things of that nature, and when you get into these industries, you're being controlled by Boule members, right? People who are basically a part of the Freemasonic order. And the Freemasonic order is being controlled by the deep state. And the deep state are the ones who control everything, who are being controlled by archonic forces behind the scene. And we're going to get into that, but I'm going to show you a video that was connected. I don't know what happened there. It kind of froze up a little bit. But now this is connected to this video.
Swim in that pond, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. But what I see is somebody who's doing something that's been doing it for over 30 years. And all of a sudden now, this is what I know.
He is basically referring to P. Diddy's situation. That is basically what he's speaking on, for those who don't understand what's going on.
Don't swim in that pond, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. But what I see is somebody who's doing something that's been doing it for over 30 years. And all of a sudden now, this is what I know, okay? I only speak on what I know. I don't like that term gatekeepers. I like overseers. Overseers on the plantation had a certain amount of power that they could wield that the master, the owner of the plantation, gave them. And many of the slaves purportedly feared the overseers more than they did master, because they wanted to maintain and keep their status. Listen to what I'm saying and look at what's happening. They wanted to keep and maintain their status. And as long as the slaves were making that money, when they weighed that cotton and whatever crop they had, the overseer's position was solid. So he cracked the whip to make sure that them slaves busted their butt.
You're choosing not to say the person's name, right?
I don't want to. You can say whatever name you want.
Because I just want to make sure the viewers, at least I'm understanding that you're talking about Diddy, and you're talking about what went down. I think like relatively, maybe about a month ago, his house got raided, and that would open up a can of worms. You're seeing different headlines come out. You're hearing about freak off parties, which I want to ask you about. Were those things existing in your time coming up? But I mean, you know, just seeing that, you know.
I say one thing about that last part that you asked me. Fatty Arbuckle. That name ring a bell?
Nah.
Fatty Arbuckle was in the silent movies. He was a superstar in silent films. And his career was lost because he was look at you Googling because you're young. He was at a freak party, which has been going on since Hollywood existed. This is nothing new. It might be new to you. Just
one thing you gotta understand, but the inception of all the freak parties didn't just come from during the time period back in the early 1900s. This all is derived from ancient Babylonian practice, ancient Babylonian ritualistic blood magic, Babylonian sex magic, right?
Your generation, this ain't nothing new. The game doesn't change, John, only the players. And this generation doesn't understand that because they don't know what happened before. If you don't know your history, you're going to repeat the same dumb things in the future. Fatty Arbuckle was a superstar in silent films. He was at a freak party, which all the big studios used to throw. And he was accused of inserting a bottle in a woman. And it killed his career. His career became flat as 3-day-old beer. What I know about the overseers, I don't want to use that gatekeeper nonsense. That's a modern term. Is that as long as they're producing, they're good. No matter what they do, no matter how vile it is, the gatekeepers will make it go away. Now, what I know, because I went to the top in my industry, as long as you are making money for the powers that be, you can do anything short of somebody watching you murder somebody. The moment you stop making the money for them, you have no intrinsic value. And I knew that.
The moment that you stop making money, the moment that you lose your social status, that's where you basically become expendable to the system, right? Because they now can't utilize you for anything to propagate a certain form of propaganda. They can't use you for nothing. So this is why people like Sexy Red, women like her, they're going to give her the resources in order for her to have these riches and things of that nature, and giving her record deals and whatever, because she's a piece to she's a chess piece to their system, right? She's a chess piece for trafficking. She's a chess piece for sexual degradation. She's a chess piece for sexual proclivities. She's a chess piece for all these things that basically subjugates Black women as a whole. So that's why Black women shouldn't listen to her, right? But I'm going to keep playing this video to let you hear what the elder got to say.
Powers that be, you can do anything short of somebody watching you murder somebody. The moment you stop making the money for them, you have no intrinsic value. And I knew that, and that's what I used in the business of show. So I'm not talking about this young man. I don't know him. I don't swim in that pond. It's not necessary for me to bring all these people in, how he took advantage of. They wanted something. He wanted something. If you go to a shore in the Caribbean or even here, and you see a sign that says shark sightings, no recreational swimming. You see surfers out there. You see people swimming out there. They go in the water and come out. Nothing might not happen. But then they go in that water and a shark will get them, and that's the end of that. So those waters that these people are swimming in are shark infested. In the motion picture industry, in the television industry, and in the recording industry. Those waters are shark infested. You take a chance to go in there, you might come out unscathed, you might not come out.
Yeah. Do you think
so what they're talking about this young man is doing has been going on since silent film. Do your research, son. After you hang up, say, you know, that old dude was right again. God dang.
Like I said, shark infested with gatekeepers. Gatekeepers who control every infrastructure of so-called Black people, right? So that's why you got to have freak-off parties. That's why you got to have underground tunnels, right? Because it's part of the Babylonian worship, right? So that's why these underground tunnels, whether you at the Getty Museum, you got the Denver airport, all these things work in tandem with the trafficking aspect, because trafficking, like I said, it's all Babylonian worship, right? They got to traffic, they got to give something in order to get something. So this, a follower of mine, I'm not going to give her a shout out or whatever, because she don't want her name being publicized on YouTube or whatever. But this lady, a young woman, she actually went to P. Diddy's house and she took a picture of this in one of his rooms. She was there with one of the younger guys, one of his sons or whatever, and she seen this in one of the rooms and she took a picture of it. And she said she took a picture of this probably maybe 3 years ago, and she sent it to me because she follows my channel. So like I said, you already know what's going on when it comes to stuff like this, right? So it's not a coincidence. So that's why, you know, the freak off parties, you know, it's a real thing. And we finna get into that here in a second. Now, I'm going to show you this video of a bodyguard. This bodyguard, he actually used to, you know, bodyguard for many different celebrities. He still does. And he's basically giving his whole rundown of what he experienced at a Diddy party. I'm gonna play the video.
You are and what you do.
It's your boy BH, man, you know, celebrity bodyguard, rapper, entrepreneur, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of celebrity stars, I'm the person they call when they get treacherous. You feel me? Like when they can't call like a normal security, they gotta call somebody who got reach in the street. They gotta call somebody who can, you know, when they got a female passed out in the hotel room and the police on their ass, they got to call me. You know what I'm saying? People trying to kill them, getting extorted, they got to call me. That's why I charge a fee. You know what I'm saying? The truth, the facts.
That's what it is. Well, the biggest news going on right now is Diddy.
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on Diddy? Have you ever worked with Diddy? Have you ever met Diddy?
I met him a couple of times. I definitely worked with him. But everything everybody's saying, I've been saying for years, bro. I've been saying it for years. Like, man, these boys are weird. You feel me? Like, you'll go to a party with them, and you look around like, damn, like, a lot of guys kissing each other in here, man. You feel me? What y'all do is y'all business.
So you've been to a party and seen this?
Oh, I've seen it firsthand, multiple times.
Man.
I've seen Dwight Howard in a pink dress, bro.
What?
I seen Dwight Howard in a pink dress with two other ladies in dresses. They all the same height at a Diddy party.
Oh.
Ask about Dwight Howard in Mexico.
What's up with Dwight Howard in Mexico?
You know, they don't got paparazzi out there like that. You feel me? They was down there hooping. He going to the club with these same ladies. Nobody saying nothing. That's why he's not in the league right now. You heard about him catching the sexual assault on the little designer dude?
Yep.
Right. Him, imagine you got 2 7-foot-tall, swole guys in dresses, cornering you in a hotel in a bedroom. You finna be scared. Thanks. So, like, I distinctly remember going to a Diddy party. All the waitresses topless. They serving you, everybody topless, you feel me? Like, he got dancers in cages, people walking around with lions on tigers on leashes. I seen this with my own 2 eyes. See what I'm saying? And it was getting so weird in the party. I'm like, man, I tell the security team I'm working with, but let me sit outside in the Escalade. So I go outside in the Escalade and I'm just chilling out there because, you know, bro, I got a reputation to maintain, bro, outstanding member. Like, I don't want nobody thinking that, man, they got BH with this. That was always a concern for me, bro. That was always a concern. I seen it for myself because Bobby Valentino was the person I was bodyguarding at. You see what I'm saying? He tell me I didn't got so much pussy before, you know, pussy don't even really excite me. I'm like, what you mean? But he there. What you mean? Oh, bro, 4th grade. I said, what you mean? So he got 2 girls with him. I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, hold on. These might not be normal girls. So no. Now he say, man, take my girl to the bathroom. Like, okay. We walk into the bathroom. You feel me? She go into the men's bathroom. But that's not all the way crazy because it's one bathroom packed, you feel me? People might do that. You know what I'm saying? So people start swarming the door. So I step inside the bathroom door. She's standing at the urinal. Dress lifted up. I'm like, damn.
Oh, man.
Okay, that's how they coming? All right. So, you know, I'm gonna tell everybody this. If you let a celebrity party and the white guys come in like they was on Twilight, look like vampires, they holding their drink like this, you feel me, with the blonde hair, stuff like that, it's finna get crazy in the party now, you feel me? Seen it too many times. When the white guys come in like they was on a vampire movie, bro, hella jail, spikes sticking up, around a bunch of black dudes, yeah, somebody finna get their case touched, bro.
Pay attention to what he said at the end, because that's draconian confirmation.
With the blonde hair stuff, yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm gonna tell everybody this. If you let a celebrity party and the white guys come in like they was on Twilight, look like vampires, they holding their drink like this, you feel me, with the blonde hair, stuff like that, it's finna get crazy in the party now, you feel me? Seen it too many times. When the white guys come in like they was on a vampire movie, bro, hella jail, spikes sticking up, around a bunch of black dudes, yeah, somebody finna get their case touched, bro.
Because they got to go a part of the vago vaso process, right? To where you got to get pumped. So in that vago vaso process, now when you understand what he was talking about, the white guys coming in looking like vampires or whatever, when you talking about the deep state, they are the ones who control the Boule society. But when you trace the genealogy of the deep state, their bloodline goes all the way back to Count Chocula, who was known as Count Dracula, right? But that's a whole other presentation, and we're going to get into that another time. So this is what, you know what I'm saying, he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? You got draconians, right? Not a coincidence. So we already know that. So now, this goes into, you know, one thing you got to understand is the hierarchical chart when it comes to authentic spirituality and monotheistic religion. Now, one thing you got to understand is that first you had Kemetic spirituality, then you got Buddhism, Taoism, and then outside of that, you got Satanism. And Satanism, you had a branch of Catholicism, then you had Christianity, then the Protestant church. Then after the Protestant church, then you got Islam, right? Because everything outside of the foundation of true spirituality is actually a form of Satanism, right? Because all monotheist religious systems is basically watered down Satanism, right? So that's why when you read this book right here, Lucifer's Lodge, Satanic Ritual Abuse in the Catholic Church by William H. Kennedy, right? Now, within the book, it's basically giving you the history of westernized ceremonial sex magic practices that can be traced from Tantra in India and Sufi mystics in the Middle East to the Knights of Templar. We all know about the Knights of Templars because they had a veneration for the Baphomet who came from Maphomet, which is connected to Mohammedanism, right? Which came from the Blackamoors. So it was famously practiced by the notorious magician Aleister Crowley, which is why the press dubbed him as the wickedest man in the world, right? So that's why they have these freak off parties, right? They have the freak off parties because, like I said, it's the foundation of satanic practices. But satanic apologists will still tell you that nothing like this ever takes place. I have heard similar arguments about satanic ritual abuse. While it is true that many of the alleged victims of SRA have gone public since have been proven lying, delusional, or that basically never happens. Furthermore, it is no real secret that sex magic rites, including practices of sexual aberrations, have formed a part of certain occult sciences from the very beginning. The practices of the priests of Babylon, Egypt, Greece, Rome, and India all involve sex rituals with temple prostitution as an integral part of their tradition, right? Because I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't understand that, you know, during the inception point, when you had the Ptolemies, they infiltrated ancient Kemet and transmuted into Egypt during the 18th dynasty. So that was basically the foundation in the apex of satanic worship, right? That was practiced by the Greco-Roman culture, who created the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Eucharist, right? And the Eucharist ceremony. All this stuff is connected. So now, this is all connected to the fact that you have the OTO Society, which is another nomenclature title for the OVO Society. When you're talking about Drake, Draco, Dracula, when you're talking about the rapper Drake. So the OVO Society is basically a watered down version of the OTO Society, because Drake, he has people that he signed that never put out albums, and they're only signed to him because he basically uses them as a form of trafficking, like people like Baka Not Nice, that's a part of OVO. He's never put out an album. He's not musically talented or nothing like that, but he's a piece to the OVO Society because they use him for trafficking purposes, right? And we all know that, you know, when you understand Drake's background, he is a Jesuit. So, like I said, these ritualistic practices from ancient Babylon came from the OTO Society, right? It's connected to the OTO Society. So you got Egyptian ceremonies, primarily toned down variations of Aleister Crowley's sex magic ceremonies, right? So this is all connected to the ancient and the mystical order of the Rosicrucians, right? And the Knights of Templars. So you got to watch this movie right here called The American Society of Magical Negroes. Now, this movie came out on March 22nd. And then when you look at this right here, it shows you the sigil of the Skull and Bones, which is 322. March 22nd is the Skull and Bones Day, which is also a fraternal order. So it's not a coincidence that this movie dropped on March 22nd. And the American Society of Magical Negroes, this movie is basically showing you that there is a secret society within a secret society that basically caters to the European infrastructure in a form of gatekeeping. So that's why everything within this movie is basically showing you the reality of the Boule Society and how they're being controlled by the deep state. So it's imperative that you watch this movie. So it's an okay movie, but soon as you go against the power structure of the deep state, the guy in the middle, the light-skinned guy, when he went against the power structure because he was a Boule member, he was kicked out of it, right? So it's imperative that you watch this movie. I know a lot of these movies that's coming out, they're not really good or whatever. Stop watching movies for entertainment purposes. Watch it for the edification, right? We already got into that. So now when you go to John 12:3-1, it tells you, call Satan the ruler of this world, again showing his power limited to the matters on the earth, right? In Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, call Satan the prince of the power of the air, the variation of the same title, right? Because I was telling you before, Satan is the god of this world, which is also connected to Corinthians 4:4. So when you understand that, because that's one thing about Christians, they they negate certain scriptures because they don't understand the esoteric aspects of it, right? They see stuff like this and they don't understand the implications of what it has to the third dimension and how everything is being controlled by a certain hierarchy. So when you see these Boule members in the music industry, when they go up and get their Grammys, they always tell you, I want to thank God. I thank God, for the Grammy. But what God are you talking about? Because when you listen to these people's music, they propagate gangsterism, they propagate drug dealing, they propagate degradation that's being connected to the Black community, so-called Black community. So what God are they worshiping when they say, I want to thank God? What God are you actually thanking? Because as I was telling you before, when you go to the H1408 Strong Concordance, the word God is equated to the word Gad. Gad is a Babylonian deity who is the god of fortune. So in order for you to get the fortune, to get a reward or a Grammy, or to get these riches, you got to sacrifice something, right? So also when you go to the 1180 Strong Concordance, the word Yahweh translates to the word Baal, who was Moloch, who was Baal, right? So as we were talking about Drake, the OTO society is acclimated to the OVO society. So this is all Moloch worship. And it's all Moloch worship because when you understand the chain of command of hierarchy, like I said, you got the Divine Nine and the Freemasonic Order at the bottom. Then you got those people being controlled by the Boule. The Boule is being controlled by the liberals and the Democrats. The liberals and the Democrats are being controlled by the deep state. The deep state is being controlled by the archonic forces, who are basically draconian shapeshifters, right? Humanoid entities who control the demiurge, which is comprised of the third dimension and the lower fourth dimension, right? That is basically the chain of command when you're talking about who controls what. So that's why you cannot go against your master, right? Because this is why they use occult, Kabbalistic sigilcism and symbols and numerology and astrology and gematria in creating allegories as to receive mankind's wealth while generating divisions through opposing ideologies, right? So you got the skull and bone sigil, then you got the sun and the moon, right? These are all basically forms of Babylonian worship. We're going to get into that later. Now, we're going to get into Jay-Z because all this stuff is connected. All this stuff is connected. You see Jay-Z, who was a Boule member, and you see him at a Freemasonic ceremony. Here's a clearer picture of Jay-Z. This is not Photoshop. This is not AI technology. This is none of that. You see, all these people are part of the Boule Society, right? And then you got the purple color, which is a Babylonian color for royalty. So this is not a coincidence. Now, one thing you got to understand about Jay-Z, Jay-Z is also a gatekeeper within the music industry, just like P. Diddy is, right? Because I remember at one point in time that P. Diddy, I think it was Irv Gotti, Suge Knight, and somebody else, they was basically trying to form an alliance to where they have a union within the hip-hop industry to where people won't go broke. But Diddy and Jay-Z messed up that whole ordeal. They messed up the whole situation. And then over the course of time, Irv Gotti and Suge Knight, they all got put in jail. They got raided for it, right? Now, one thing you got to understand about about Yo Gotti. Now, Yo Gotti is signed to Jay-Z. Yo Gotti was beefing with Young Dolph. And I'm going to show you how this whole thing goes, right? So you have Yo Gotti beefing with Young Dolph. Now, one thing you got to understand is that when you're independent, when you have your own autonomous self-preservation, when you don't need their industries, you don't need their system, that's when you become a target. And I'm going to prove it in this video.
I'm going to let y'all know what's going on.
Bro, for the last 6 months, I've been having a motherfucking $22 million contract debating on should I do the deal or not. Know what I'm saying? I'm like, should I take the 22 million? Or fuck the 22 million. Fuck the 22 million.
So this is the reason why Young Dolph was killed, because he said, the hell with the 22 million. Because what happens is when you become a part of their industry, right? When you become a part of their industry, they cannot monetize off your creativity. So this is why, you know, as far as Young Dolph and Yo Gotti, they were basically beefing, and Jay-Z's a gatekeeper. So when you turn down record deals, the gatekeepers come after you and they sacrifice you because they cannot basically monetize your wealth, right? So same thing with Nipsey Hussle. You on Nipsey Hussle's last album, it was executive produced by P. Diddy. And one thing you understand that Nipsey, he was an independent artist. So anytime you independent and you don't need them, they're basically going to come for you, right? Because the reason they're going to come for you because when you don't sign a record deal, whether you are an artist or you are an actor or whatever, when you sign these record deals, it basically puts you under the jurisdiction under the Acts of Parliament. When you under the Acts of Parliament, that's when they're able to monetize your creativity. So instead of when you get a record deal, when you sign a movie contract, don't sign the contract when it says artist or actor. Cross it out and put creator. Because now when you are basically a creator, that gives you autonomous infrastructure to where you can control your creativity and control your own content, right? Because you're not under the jurisdiction of the system. So this is why they go so hard to sign people so bad, right? They give you a 360 deal, right? Because it puts you under the Act of Parliament, right? So now, one thing you gotta understand, this is all connected to Beyonce because she's also a gatekeeper. She is known for ruining a lot of women's careers, such as Carrie Hilson, you got Aaliyah, and many others, right? So Beyonce is rumored to feed off the souls of Black music icons. Michael Jackson died in 2009 and only 3 months after Beyonce started I Am World Tour, right? And Michael Jackson had a song about that. Whitney Houston died in 2012 when Beyonce was preparing her Miss Carter tour. Bobby Wambach died in 2014 and only 2 days after Beyonce started her On the Run tour. Prince died in 2016 and only 6 days before Beyonce started her Formation tour. And I think Prince had a tour called Formation. So a lot of people still think this stuff is a coincidence because this is how you siphon the energy of those who are basically dead, because there's a radiant energy in order for you to channel their energy and use it in a form of a facilitation process to take upon that energy to put you in alignment with success. So you had Tina Turner died in 2023 and only 14 days after Beyonce started her Renaissance tour. So those are just the artists. What about all the innocent people in her circle who left under mysterious circumstances and the many people who disappeared, right? So it showed you the depiction of Beyonce siphoning the energy of those who are connected to that whole paradigm, right, in the industry, right? Because she's also a witch. Jay-Z does the same thing, right? So one thing you gotta understand about people, like, I show credence to Jay-Z because I like his music, but I do not have a emotional connection to him, right? I'm able to listen to his music and I'm able to detach from what he does behind the scenes because I don't care about what he does behind the scenes or whatever, right? That has nothing to do with me. But like I said, that doesn't mean that I show credence to what he does, right? I just enjoy the music because it's, you know, he has hip hop beats that has soulful samples and things of that nature on them. And I like stuff like that. I don't listen to trap music. So that's why I'm very attracted to Jay-Z's music. You know what I'm saying? So for those who don't understand, like, oh, Bardell's a Boule member because he has a Jay-Z painting. I respect him for the music. I don't respect what he does behind the scenes because I know he's a gatekeeper. I know he's a trafficker, right? So you see Jay-Z right here wearing Biggie's Jesus piece that he inherited after Biggie's death, right? So one thing you can understand about Jay-Z, he goes through this process called Rain Man. Rain Man is when he puts on Biggie's chain and he channels the energy of Biggie and he's able to flow off the top of his head without writing nothing, right? Jay-Z's been doing this since the early 90s. Jay-Z doesn't write nothing. He doesn't write no type of lyrics. Everything is off the top of his head. That's a form of channeling because Biggie, he didn't write nothing. So he's basically channeling Biggie's energy. He's siphoning his energy, just like how Beyonce siphons the energy of the souls of the iconic musicians that died all throughout history, right? So Jay-Z also does a thing called spirit cooking, right? He was spirit cooking. He was seen with, I think her name is Marina Abramovic, and they was doing a spirit cooking ritual at one of his music videos, right? And you also see P. Diddy, once he found out his house got raided or whatever, and the news coming out about his situation, about the trafficking and all the allegations, you can see him with Marina Abramovic right here, right? Because she's actually a witch. She's a witch who understands like the occultic knowledge of spirituality and how to get certain celebrities out of their situation. So now this is all connected to the Blue Bloods, right? Because the Blue Bloods are part of the Khazarian Mafia, who is also part of the Deep State. And the Deep State are the ones that's connected to the York and the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. These are all connected to the bloodlines of the Buffalino family. So that's why Jay-Z named his album The Blueprint, because he's working with the Blue Bloods. The Blue Bloods are actually the white hats, right? The white hats who control the infrastructure of politics. Now, we finna get into the infrastructure of the Buffalino family, right? So it shows you right here that the gangster rappers, Benny the Butcher and the West Side Gun, they are basically signed to Jay-Z and are from Buffalo. Benny the Butcher, can't see the rest of it. Benny the Butcher is a satanic mobster who runs a gang which under the Buffalino crime family, he is a human trafficker, right? And like I said, they work in tandem with the Buffalino family. Now, for those who are not familiar with the Buffalino family, now the Buffalino family is an Italian noble family. There are 16 who are the 16th century historian Jacob Bailey declared noble already in the 14th century was aggregated to the noble families of Amelia and Pope Gregory and granted her title of count. So like I said, the Buffalino family is connected to the whole infrastructure of the Catholic Church, which like I said, Catholicism is a branch of Satanism. It's watered down Satanism. So that's why Conte Ateneo Buffalino, nobleman of Amelia, lawyer and journalist specialized in maritime law, is the managing director of Capo, and a company manages the port of Ezio, and a member of several boards of directors of companies operating in the yachting industry. Now, this is also connected to Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden was born on November 20th, 1942, is an American politician who served as the 47th Vice President of the United States from 2009 to 2017. Biden also represented Delaware in the United States Senate from 1973 to 2009, a member of the Democratic Party. Biden is a candidate for president of 2020. Biden was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and lived there for 10 years before moving his family to Delaware. Now, that's part of the Scranton, that's also part of the Scranton Mafia, right? So he's actually bloodlines in connection with the Scranton Mafia in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And the Scranton Mafia is also connected to the Buffalino family, who is basically Jay-Z's handlers, right? And he's their handlers because they use it in a form of trafficking, right? So now we're going to get into another video by Steve Coakley, who breaks down the whole infrastructure and the whole foundation of the Boule Society in full spectrum.
Greatly limiting. Yes, it's acting like we just got here together. Many people will see the tape and the videotape, wonder why everybody was so lightly greeting each other. It's because we have been talking for a while. And we have now stepped forward to have a discussion about the black male secret society known as Sigma Pi Phi, acronym the Boule, B-O-U-L-E. We will do our best to show you the information related to the Boule. That's what this lecture is about. I could give the entire lecture and quote every inch of the documentation without looking at it. I know them that well. But this is my responsibility, my night, to show you the information so that you can look at it with me and double affirm the fact that much of our black press, as much as we like it, has not been honest in talking about this group of black men who they respected very highly and never speak negatively against it. We also know that we've had many black people who've been a member of it and have never, ever broken the code or the creed and spoken to one who was a non-member. So they pledge and swear that their goal is to represent you. You will have a hard time believing it when they don't even seek to let you know that they who help you are. And so, in July 17th, 1990, July 18th, 1990, the Los Angeles Times did a front page story on the left column about elite fraternity of black men. Excuse me, brother. I saw that one get away. I'm just shaming myself. I stand back here. This elite fraternity of black men were described in the article as being influential, as being somewhat like Skull and Bones at Yale. And as it said these things, I was a little in awe, as the others, brothers in African Minds United and the Coalition Against Black Exploitation, as we all were intrigued by the fact that this group of men could have been in existence and we not know about them. And even other brothers and sisters. I remember talking to a brother who had been National Executive Secretary of Sigma, Phi Beta Sigma, been in fraternity land 37 years, had heard nothing of the Boule ever. Well, its founder had been a member. And so, as we began to talk about it with other people around the country, we began to realize that people didn't know about it. How you doing, brother? And not knowing that people didn't know about it, we just assumed that it was incidental, that everybody must know something about it, and that it was not mysterious or connected to all of those other things we had previously been talking about, like Cecil Rhodes and Baron de Rothschild and all the Halls of Haters, the ADL and the Diamond Jewish Connection. We've been talking about the Trilateral Commission, who is responsible for this economic summit that you'll be seeing on TV the next 3-4 days. You need to know that. Anybody? Carl Rowan came on the radio right here in LA. And my friends jumped him because we jumping them in every city. And when they jumped him, he said the Trilateral Commission ain't done nothing. But the Trilateral Commission went to the president and had him set up the annual economic summit starting in '76, France. So when you listen to how your destiny of your country, they say, rides on that meeting, you wonder how Rowan could make such an allegation. But knowing as a Boule in Washington, D.C. Epsilon chapter, his goal is to never speak of the high, white, and mighty whom the Boule, all 3,300, are sworn to protect. Yes, these brothers that we are pushing up against the wall have taken a sworn oath that they will never expose the whites that they know actually run the world. They, in ambition and in deference to liberation and respect of the race.
This is why you got so many black, people in the music industry and the movie industry. They always telling you to go vote. They go get people like Cardi B. They go get your LeBron James. They get all these people to tell you, "I'll go vote. Your vote matters." And they make you do all these things that basically push you in a state of degradation, right? So, like I said, that's why it's very imperative to understand who's who and what's what. So it's not only subjected to, like I said, the whole entertainment industry is acclimated to the political industry. People who have who are city council members, people who are lawyers, people who are working in nonprofit organizations. These are the people that's going to basically try to get you in a state of conformity when the system basically shuts down, when you have a new so-called lockdown again, just like we had in 2020. Pay attention to who is going to basically show credence to the system when all hell breaks loose, right? That's how you're going to know who's who and what's what.
Agreed to maintain the status quo of white supremacy, which has two levels of white supremacy: a local, limited, parochial side, the Ku Klux Klan, the Reardons, the Kenny Hans, the local clans, but has a powerful, more mighty upper crust, which probably would include Occidental Petroleum and Arco and Exxon and Mobile Oil and the Rockefeller Foundation and other influential, wealthy families and institutions. So what we're talking about is, why haven't you heard of those people who are in the secret society? It's because the people who you look to, who you would most suspect would tell you, have sworn that they never will. And because of that, that leaves the sub-leadership, the other group of people that you like a lot, that leaves them to tell you, the heads of the various organizations as you know them. But if you listen to them, they have never said of these black men, for that they did not know. Which means that Malcolm, we know, knew of these men. We know Marcus Garvey knew of these men, because their crowning most outstanding achievement was the physical elimination and castigation of Marcus Garvey, and the insistence and the climate setting that brought about the death of Malcolm X. For both of those men, international in perspective and insight, were a threat to the very rights that they're sworn to protect. You don't get killed for any other reason than jeopardizing the whites of the whites that run the world. Martin King, who was a Boule, met the bullet, not for the civil rights thing, but for the international war thing that got two Kennedy boys killed also. So we're looking at a group of men who have protected murderers. So what is the crime of this Boule? As we allege, as many of them say, why do you step to my doorstep and accuse me of these things, of which I know not? But their so-called limited understanding is in fact defiance and woven into the oath that they swear that they will never even act like they know who these people really are. We have challenged these people on the radio, TV, in the street, on numerous occasions. Kurt Smoke, the mayor of Baltimore, Jesse Jackson, the head of the Rainbow Coalition, Cecil Murray, all the way down the line. These people that we have challenged have never been able to stand up and honestly turn around and say the truth to the matter. And we understand that. So our job is to come to you with the information so that you can make up your mind. There are several affirmations about this process that we must admit to. A Greek is a frog. A Greek is a frog. Now, there are a lot of people going to hear this all over the country, and they want to know, do you understand that a Greek is a fraud? So I want you to holler out if you think that a Greek is a fraud. A Greek is a fraud. Well, let me try that one more time. You might not be.
He ain't saying frog, he's saying fraud. Greeks are frauds because they are part of the fraud because they propagate the fraud by way of the 14th Amendment, which is a fraudulent contract, never ratified, right? So that connects you to civil rights. So they don't propagate the Declaration of Human Rights because it connects you back to the Indigenous People Act, right? I'm gonna play the video.
Because this is going to go to people all over the country. And they want to know, do you believe this? Because if you believe this, this comes to a certain conclusion that will produce other action, which you have affirmed. Is a Greek a fraud? Did the Greek steal from Kemet? Yeah. Okay. If the Greeks stole from Kemet and a Greek is a fraud, what then is the fate of those who have perpetrated the Greek in spite of the fact?
So that means that Greco-Roman culture who created monotheistic religion at the Council of Nicaea and at the Council of Eucharist is based on fraud. Egypt is a Greek term, fraud, like he said, right? So when you're following their system, you're following Babylonian principles. Babylonian principles is the foundation of Yahweh Enlil Moloch, right? Same entity. So that's why when you go to Corinthians 4:4, it says that God is Satan is the God of this world, right? Everything that's acclimated to the system is fraud. Everything that's based on fraud is a reverse of frequency because it goes against nature, right?
And then somebody finally caught on. Everybody hollered fraud. Okay, that's the crime, right? Somebody else gave a sentence. The suggestion is clear. At the Ebony 100 most influential ought to be -9. It ought to be the top 91. Because the 9 Greeks ought to back out while there's still time. I'm making a suggestion to the Greek connection, even to those in the room. You might be just an alpha or a sigma, or a zeta, or an AKA. You might just be a little Greek. That's right. But you're a Greek nevertheless. And soon you're gonna see, because when someone tell me they're gonna back up a move on the Boule, the first move you're gonna see on every telephone pole in LA is the Greek thing is dead. That's the first move you're gonna see. And all the Greeks, the Alpha, the Kappa, the Omega, and the Sigma. So you're right. The AKA, the Zeta, the Sigma, Gamma, Rho, and the Delta. They will all be informed publicly. Please do not have a public manifestation of the Greek thing. Don't have a big dinner. Don't have a big reception. Don't put it in the paper that you're coming. Because I suggest to you that we're going to start to visit you at your things. That's right. And ask you to prove your Greek thing on the spot. In the back row will be the cameramen, because everyone's going to need to see your faces when we show up. You might dress up like a Greek and a little Greek so you can get a reflection of yourself. Right. I said clearly. If you remember JFK, they was running around playing Roman. We make a suggestion. We're in the process of penetrating a group of circles, and that these circles are webs, which are numerous organizations, just beyond the Boule. You see, we have done it right here in this room. We have asked members of Greek fraternities to show the handshake to the others in the audience. And on every single occasion, they have refused. And that goes to show that even though we may be in their best interests, there is a bridge that will separate us, which cannot be tolerated when we're under attack. We did the lecture Africa 93. We showed that the white man is pushing colonialism without hesitation, and he's saying it publicly and openly. And under those circumstances, deviation can't be tolerated. So some of you who have asked, what can you do? Will be asked, can you go to the big white hotels where the Greeks give the other Greeks their money? Can you go down there with me on the night, Friday night, when they got the big dinner? See if we can get...
Pausing a little second here. Hold on.
Answers for this Greek thing. Hold up some pictures of Greek and ask them which one is their daddy. Or hold some pictures of some fallen commitments or Kibalans or Azanians and ask, do you support the ones that did this? We must confront our people, for it is our people that have tolerated the jam that we're in, and these people are at the top of our people as a guarantee from white people. Yes, the whites guarantee the Boule prosperity and notoriety. I'm telling you, we done put a lot of pressure on these people. Turned a lot of them into flat tires. I saw one of the tires blown up last week in the LA Times, trying to put air back in a tire we flattened for supporting the Boule. Check. This is the founder of the Boule, Henry Minton. If this was color, you'd see he's light, almost white. Because in the early aspects of the organization, there was a lot of that. Henry Minton is the founder and so-called pioneering spirit. Brother was kind, knowing I needed the point of the organization Sigma Pi Phi. The head man of the organization is called the Grand Sire Archon. ARCHON is what a member is called after they have been inducted. They're an Archon. He was the Grand Poobah from 1908 to 1909. Then became...
The purpose of this video, I'm hoping y'all taking notes or whatever, because I understand people, you know, they want to understand everything intuitively, or they want to get the intrinsic information. The only way you can get that is if you got to sit through videos like this, because everything got to make sense. Because a lot of people don't understand the diametrical difference between who's the enemy and who isn't. And this video is going to give you the foundation to where you can basically dismantle for certain people who are basically a part of that system. And the only way you can do that is if you get through videos like this. You got to watch documentaries. You got to read books. You got to do deep research. So it might be boring or whatever, but you got to watch the videos.
Grand Sire Archon Emeritus. The Grand Sire Archon is the head of the national Boule. The head of the local Boule is called Sire Archon. So the head of the LA chapter is Sire Archon. A member in any Boule is called just Archon. So if Archon is the member, Sire Archon is the local head, Grand Sire Archon is the only head, the titular head. The Grand Sire Archon and those other top positions of the Boule have absolute and supreme authority over every Boule chapter, which are called subordinate chapters. Every subordinate chapter of the Boule is compelled to respond to the wishes of the Grand Sire Archon and the executive committee. This is a discussion about what Minton was thinking about in 1904 when he wanted to set up the organization. This is from the History of Sigma Pi Phi. That's the history book of the organization. The History of Sigma Pi Phi. It's written by an alpha named Charles Wesley, who wrote the history book for A5A as well. Didn't he? Didn't he? And then the alpha's here? Yes, okay, he did write it, yes. In there, he said, in summary, Minton wanted to create an organization which would partake, in his own words, of, quote, the tenets of Skull and Bones at Yale. Now, in the July 18th article on Skull and Bones, on the Boule in the LA Times, and I'm going to show you the original article that we first found on the subject. And I want to show you what it says, because in the article, you get the impression. I just want to, when they say Skull and Bones at Yale, that's what they're talking about. That's the logo for Skull and Bones at Yale. Now, who would want to be patterned after that? Because that doesn't look positive to me. Now, you already a damn Greek. You ain't got some
now you see how that's connected to the movie I was telling you about, the Magical Society, the American Society of Negroes. You see how it also is basically correlation. There's a correlation there, right? Because it came out on March 22nd, 322. March 22nd is a Skull and Bones Day, right? So this movie right here, you got to watch it. Like I said, it's talking about the Boule Society, right? And you also got to read this book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, right? Get back to the video.
So that's a double here. Yeah, I'm looking for you this opening article. Here we go. This is a little hard to see when I'm up here, so it's a little difficult. Let me take this off. It's a little warm in here. It's even warmer up here. This is the original LA Times article. Everybody see that? Did you see that? When it ran in 1990. So you can't see it. No, you didn't see it. What's the date on this? That's July 18th, 1990. Elite for Guidance Agenda of Black Men. This is the original article that came out on the Boule that we just casually discussed here at the Good Life, which led to this penetration. Because by the time Brother Oswald gets up and starts decodifying a little of that symbolism, you will see that we have in fact cracked a riddle that has contained our people. Our people have been contained by an organized element of secret people who have used riddles, mysteries, and secret societies to jam us. And what we are doing is we are unlocking or decodifying the mystery, because once decodified and exposed, those who are secret in the light will not be as effective, which must be our goal, since liberation is not theirs. You can't liberate as a Greek. You can't liberate in the name of Greece. So you may, everybody say, well, you know, Steve is really a black thing. It may be, but you ain't gonna liberate called 8x8. Yeah. Now, watch this. Now come the men of Sigma Pi Phi and one secret black fraternity. That celebrates the professional and material success of black men. We have much material success. Well, anyway, you can just see how they spend their time. They have big, every year, they have big picnics, big annual picnics every chapter. We need to find the park where the new chapter, the LA chapter meets at, because they're going to have a big picnic somewhere, preferably in the Greek neighborhood. We have to find where they're going to be at, so we can go to the picnic. Don't you want to go to the Boule picnic? Known as Boule, pronounced Boule. The group is here. See, Boule, B-O-U-L-E. Known as the Boule, the group is here this week for its biennial meeting, and it's look at an agenda for the black male in the 90s. Now, Louis Sullivan who is head of Health and Human Services, is the Boule member. In fact, a little later on, you'll see him talking about him speaking. It's not in this one, it's in the other one, where he's speaking. They're talking about Louis Sullivan's name right there. U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Louis Sullivan. This was about assisting the young black male. Said the focusing more on social activism. Too many young black men, said the civil rights group, are underemployed, alternatively feared, and rebel and living at a risk. So they're going to help young black men. So how did Louis Sullivan try to help young black men? The National Violence Initiative. He sought to chemically bust their skulls open and penalize them for being chemically imbalanced, which means they were disturbing the Greeks. How many of you all saw ABC last night? I asked everybody to watch the program, which was talking about the Violence Initiative. And did you see the story after that too? Which was just as deep. The sister from Chicago working for the Koreans paid by the United Way. Just like we talked about on the radio. And there was a white man saying that we're not going to let certain prisoners out of jail until we prove they're chemically balanced. Now you imagine you done your time and a motherfucker telling you 40 degrees off balance. Oh brother, this is deep. This sounds funny, but if we don't get together and kick some ass, they're going to cut all us open. We're all going to be walking around like this here. We act a little like this now, only we do the funkin'. Watch this. This I thought was interesting. Almost sounds accidental. Like Yale Skull and Bones, secret society to which George Bush belonged, the Boule has been criticized by some as a social anachronism and has challenged members to change its image. Like Yale Skull and Bones secret society. You see, when you hear that, that almost sounds it's probably like Yale Skull and Bones. But then when you actually see that it isn't just like it, it was made like it. You see what she did? You see how the article kind of hid the fact that it was pledged to be like Skull and Bones at Yale. See, like Yale Skull and Bones, it doesn't say patterned off of or filed on the tenets of. It doesn't affirm it as well as we found it when we got the damn book. You see, someone said, well, brother, now we got the article. What more will we need to look for? Is that once someone that we don't like writes something, we know there are 10 times more things there once we get it. Anybody that looked at anything, I try to look over it because my eyes look for different things. And all of these people together. Now, I must tell the story again for the record, for those who don't know. I lectured at Morgan State. I left here in Los Angeles, went to Morgan State in Baltimore, gave a lecture. That Christian Gregory, who was just in the jet, Dick Gregory's son, was the head of the student government there, brought me there to Morgan State. I did the little piece on the Boule. A sister in the audience heard the lecture, went to her teacher, who was asking her to write a term paper. She said, I'm going to write it on the Boule and Skull and Bones, because I heard the guy mention it at the lecture hall. And he said, well, I'm in the Boule. I can't wait to see it. He asked to take her to lunch. She's a very nice-looking sister. He asked to take her to lunch. She called me up. I come back to L.A. She called me here in L.A. at the hotel. Asked me what should she do. I asked her if she could have lunch with him without lifting up her skirt. Because that's what the Boule wanted. Wanted the Boule.
You know what he said? The Boule want that bootay. Now I forgot I got to show you a video. Literally, because the Boule really want that bootay, right? And the reason they want that bootay because that's part of the Vago Vaso process. That's part of the Babylonian rituals. I'm gonna play this video.
Like I see, like when Diddy fucked Carl Winslow, we was at the party, and you know,
You already said it. I'm gonna play it back.
Like I see, like when Diddy fucked Carl Winslow, we was at the party, and you know, we just chilling and shit like that. And me,
messed up my childhood when he told me that.
Everybody know me, right? Right. I'm a going out some shit. I'm like, like hearing that, I'm like, on 6-0, who's wearing this bitch out? Right. Nigga, I kick in the door. Poof. Kick in the door. Nigga, I seen Carl Winslow put
Yeah,
his
that's
head
the
up.
father. Ain't that the father from Family Matters?
Yeah.
No way.
Oh, the dad. The dad.
Oh, the dad.
The dad.
The dad.
I swear to God, dad homie, they blew a crib. So when I seen that,
Man.
and then
So who was piping Carl up? Diddy?
yeah, Diddy was. So when I seen that, cuz right, Diddy came back and he was telling me, he was like, it's nothing more enjoyable than having a man do something for some money. I'm like, cuz that shit crazy.
Oh, no, that's wild, bro.
The Boule want that bootay. That's how I was telling you before. That's facts. The Boule want that bootay, just like Steve Coakley said. Rest in peace, Steve Coakley, for putting out all this information.
On the Boule and Skull and Bones, because I heard he got mentioned it at the lecture hall. He said, well, I'm in the Boule. I can't wait to see it. He asked to take her to lunch. She's a very nice looking sister. He asked to take her to lunch. She called me up. I come back to LA. She called me here in LA at the hotel. Asked me what should she do. I asked her if she could have lunch with him without lifting up her skirt. Because that's what the Boule wanted. Wanted the Boule. So Sister proudly called that she had gotten a history book from him, which has a huge blue cover. It's coded in blue. Their colors are blue and white. It's a big blue color. We know blue as the color that represents the lower lodges of Freemasonry. Those are the blue lodges, the 1, 2, 3 lodges.
Back to, it goes in connection with Jay-Z, the Blue Lodge, Blueprint, the Blue Bloods, the Buffalino family, who are his handlers, right? See how this stuff is connected? So like I said, it's deeper than what people perceive it to be, right? All this stuff is really deep. That's how deep it goes.
We know the tenet that holds the Blue Lodge together is the code of silence. That's what holds the Blue Lodge together. The code, that's all they learned. The secrets. And
now that I come to, now that I think about it, just had a download. I remember this Jay-Z album came out on 9/11 and it still went platinum. It came out the same day that the Twin Towers fell. So it, who's to know that that couldn't have been a ritual? You see what I'm saying? But back to the video.
Not really been taught them because they're not taught to them till later on, but they think they know. But the 1, 2, 3 lodge is about testing their ability to keep the damn mouth shut. Right? All right, you give me a check on that. Yeah. That's why the United Nations is called the Blue Helmets. That's right. That's why the police are the men in blue or the blue lights. Because that's what and that's why their organization is called the Fraternal Order Police. And I don't know what Willie Williams thinks, but if you take a white boy that been my enemy, that supported Gates, supported every beating of your head every time, and make that asshole motherfucker deputy mayor over the brother. That's right. I'm telling y'all in big trouble. Y'all excuse my language. I want to emphasize the danger of the head of the Fraternal Order of Police becoming deputy mayor for public services. That's right. You might not care about politics, and I don't either. They're all whores. That's right. But we better not let them turn a trick and one of them legs kick us in the face. So for no other reason, do it for that reason. Boule is a Greek word designating a council of community leaders who advise kings. Now a question ought to come up. I understand what a counselor does, but who the fuck is the king? Now, we have a tape where you all remember
who the king is, as I was telling you before, their king, we got to go all the way back. It's part of the upper echelon in the hierarchy of the Boule system, right? We are the king that the Black Secret Society serve. We control everything, including your pastors, right? That's why pastors get a 501c3 Skull and Bones contract, right? You see how that everything comes full circle? Like I said, the veil is lifted. So if you have this information, you understand what's going on, and you still side with the system, you know what I'm saying? Spiritually, you're going to have to get, spiritual reparations. Spiritual reparations is going to come for your ass in the name of karmic retribution.
Black power, written by who? And Charles Hamilton. Very good. Charles Hamilton, 4 years after he wrote Black Power, joined the Boule. As he then started making $100,000 with the Rockefeller Foundation. He went on Bob Law's show recently in New York, and the Cochleyites in the bowels of Brooklyn, Harlem, and the other bowels of New York jumped him on the Bob Law show about this Boule thing. And they misstated the challenge by saying, I think it's a Latin word. He said, yeah, it's a Latin word. But we know it's Greek. He gave them the decoy. They said, who is the king that you serve? And he said, I don't really know nothing about that king thing. We don't serve any king. I mean, we have meetings and stuff, but we don't know of any kings. Well, why then do you call yourself that? In your own history book, you will see that you call yourselves the advisors to the king. And the question comes up, if it ain't so, why do you say so? But see, basically, they don't think you have the information. Oh, just for the record. The day the Boule was founded, for those of you who do numerological analysis, and I know some of you are into the numbers, the historic date of the founding of the Boule, for the record, is May 15th, 1904. That is the birth date of Sigma Pi Phi, and it should be written indelibly on the memory of all members in the fraternity. This day was for Boule its Founders' Day. On this day, the decision was made to establish this first of the fraternities for college graduates. This date, or the date of the May meeting nearest May 15th, has been celebrated as Founders' Day. Now, if you all were at AMU one night that we did a lecture called LA Boule Coup d'etat Implications, where I talked about the coup d'etat and the JFK movie and about the Boule, and there was a guy sitting in the front row who was in the Boule. That's right. And he said to the audience that he doesn't even read his history book. But we know from the history book that every chapter must review the history book during the month of May. But again, they never count on you having the history book, so they don't answer you as if you know. The answer is if you don't know or never know. That's why they don't like us like they do. Because we're arming you and putting you in a position to demand answers to questions that they never expected they'd have to give up. That's right. This is compelling. We're going to look at some codified things that they talk about. There's some funny things they say. From their history book is another dialogue we want to look at. This is, as you can see, history of Sigma Phi Phi. As you see, I write on my stuff. The things you read, write on, talk to it, hold it for a while. Quit throwing it away as soon as you get it. In your house, there's a lot of pressure not to be junky. You'd rather be dead than junky.
So like I said, RIP to Steve Coakley. He was breaking down the whole infrastructure of that, of the Boule Society, and how it works in tandem with everything that's going on. Right? So, so this is not a coincidence, because as I was telling you before, everybody a part of the industry are basically foot soldiers for the Boule Society. And the Boule Society is being controlled by the deep state. So this is why they put out distractions on purpose as we going through the shifting process when you're talking about the Great Awakening. So it's not a coincidence that all these people all of a sudden just started beefing out of nowhere, right? So in my opinion, that raises an eyebrow, because I know that this is going to be a form of a Black Swan event, because they know that the great majority of people are connected to the energy of hip hop, right? It's the most popular genre of music, and the only way to distract the people is by way of the music, because now they're paying attention to their favorite celebrities because they have an emotional connection to their celebrities, right? So while they doing all this stuff over here, beefing, the plutocracy is doing things behind the scenes, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys got your notes out and everything, because we living in a time right now because people are not able to decipher who the enemy is, because we all look alike. We all have good jobs and things of that nature, and you're not able to decipher who's who and what's what, because you don't understand the implications of these secret societies and what they do behind the scenes, right? So this video, like I said, is basically breaking down the infrastructure of the Boule Society. For the new people coming in, the Boule Society is an African-American originated system, came from ancient Greece as a subservient class of Grecan rulers, reinstitutionalized in 1904 in the United States, and meaning councils of chiefs and advisor to kings, and the kings are the Freemasons, who are part of the deep state. The Boule Society is the elite servient class to Freemasons, right? So this is they are basically the ones who control the NAACP and the civil rights movement. The Boule Society is responsible for getting Malcolm X killed. It's a part of the Divine Nine of the Black fraternities and sororities, right? And it's a part of the religious aspects, right? Because they take skull and bone contracts, which is the 501c3 charter. You got people in the music industry, movie industry, professional sports. All this stuff is connected. It's all connected to Babylonian worship and trafficking underground tunnels, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this is very critical times that we're living in right now, because like I said, we've been infiltrated from the inside out by people who look like us, but they not us. Shout out to Ryan Hayes when he basically broke that down for us, right? Because these are the people who are being controlled by the plutocracy. They're being controlled by their kings to keep the stagnation of Black degradation within our culture, right? So, this is why you got people who are taking up for Diddy. They take up for people who are basically have these allegations on them, a part of the industry, right? This is the reason why they do that. They take up for them because, like I said, the people under them are not able to combat those who are basically doing all the trafficking, doing all these rituals and things of that nature. They can't speak out against them, right? So, like I said, it's one of those things where it's very imperative to understand that when we have another shutdown, when the planet is going to be in a state of a lockdown, just like we had in 2020 because of the draconian juice, what's going to happen is a lot of the people are part of these secret societies. A lot of people are part of the fraternities and sororities and the Boule Society and the Freemasonic Order. All these so-called Blacks are part of that system, are the ones that's basically going to endorse the draconian juice. They're going to tell you to vote. They're going to tell you to get reparations. Right, because as I was telling you before, it's a form of technology to basically connect you right back to the fraudulent system, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this video. Get this video out there. And for those who are watching this video and didn't understand and didn't have an intuitive understanding about the intrinsic information, and for those who are part of fraternities and sororities and were basically oblivious to everything that you've seen in this video, this is the time period right now where you must denounce your fraternity, you must denounce your sorority, right? Because you're basically acclimating yourself to Greco-Roman culture, which is a derivative of Satanism, right? Because Greco-Roman culture actually was extracted from the 18th dynasty of Egypt when they got infiltrated by the Ptolemies, right? So that's why it's imperative to understand the inception of history by, understanding how these organizations were basically engineered and orchestrated. So, like I said, it's imperative that you denounce these organizations or whatever, because I understand, like, it looks good on the surface. You with your Q dogs and y'all divine now, y'all ski eating and all this other stuff or whatever. I get it. You know what I'm saying? You did that back during the college days. But now, since you came across this information, now you must use your spiritual and your mental fortitude to denounce those organizations who are part of a satanic regime, right? Because the inception of it came from a satanic order. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get this video out there for if you know people in your family who are part of fraternities and sororities, and they've been thinking about getting away from those organizations. Share the, give this video to them, share it, because like I said, we live in very critical times to where we have to decipher the illusion, because the people are part of those infrastructures is going to keep you acclimated to the illusion. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, end of transmission.
10:14. We will put an end to this madness.
It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. Karma's gonna get to you, and then you'll have a chariot with only one less friend. Now I had distant folks that are looking to my eyes to understand the wisdom he's given and his wealth from the skies. So thanks for this meal that I'm about to receive, and thank you for my health and all the good memories. Thanks for the courage taking on another day when I used to not believe, but now I know about grace. Stay away from the fire, cause the flames does burn. Go with your gut feeling, when it's wrong you learn. For every one step I take, the Lord takes two. And do unto others if you want it done unto you. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. This a completion, the selfish Proto-Grecian, Amerindian, Phoenician. I'm the last of the Mohicans, the bastard of the land, the pen, melanin, accretion. And we just trying to get back to the fact that we was kings and queens of a land before the avalanche seized it. I live on Turtle Island with the rest of the diseased. Better than the medicine for 7 different treatments. Niggas try to ride away but end up getting seasick. The sleep can feel my words like Braille, and they're awakened with the penmanship of Hindu script written in them vacant monastery honor. Payments to the prototype. Tomorrow's only a day away, but nothing happens overnight. The fuck's wrong with going left when you know it's right? Biting off more than I can chew, that's an overbite. Black on black crime is like watching 2 soldiers fight when all along they was on the same page. History. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land.